I am Icon Father James, Revlon Icon, and I started walking in '91, and I represent the Black era.
I am the Icon Bam Ebony, the overall father of the House of Ebony. I started working balls in 1991, and I also represent the Black era.
My name is overall Icon GrandDaddy Dray Ebony. I came into the ballroom scene. I came into the House of Ebony in 1983. Went to my first ball in '88. Got nurtured strongly by the white era. Started my movement in the red era, but was prominent in my father and my reign, and just old enough the House of Ebony on my back in the Black era.
Bubby at the 91, the Black era.
Icon, Mann, Omni, St. Clair, Ebony, Mel, found Father Prodigy. I'm representing the Black era. What is realness to me? The state of being, it's just you, like you have to represent what you stand for. Basically, just you. Believe you're real.
Maintaining the masculine, worker, doing manly things, family, job.
Realness is a state of mind that exemplifies the truth to me.
Realness is a overall state of being, how you carry yourself, how people perceive you, and how you interact with people throughout your daily life.
Realness to me was a question that was asked to me at the first time I joined the House of Rebel. And I couldn't answer it then until I realized what it was. And realness, as all the men said, is a state of mind, it's a state of being, it's who you are as a person, as a man. And if you stand in your truth of who you are, it makes you a real man. I was introduced to Ballroom around 1989-90, being on the pier with my friends, hanging out and stuff. And I had a friend who would sit on the pier and twirl around in a circle all the time. And I asked her, was she a ballerina? And she said, no, she walks balls. And I'm like, oh, wow, a debutante ball? And and she was like, no, where you from? I'm from Queens. She was like, come on, come with me. We went down the block, a couple of blocks away to Tracks. It was Tuesday night, first 100 free. I was like, I ain't got no money. She was like, don't worry, it's a mini ball, it's 100 free or whatever. We go inside and she walks Femme Queen Performance and she wins. And I say, oh, wow, what is that? And she explained to me it was a ball, and my other two best friends at the time, DeAndre and Trina, were involved in Ballroom. So they started to explain it to me. And that's how I discovered my love and passion for Ballroom. And I was invited to join the House of Revlon. And at that point, I was like, it's all speed ahead.
There's so many variations of how I came into Ballroom. I believe I was originally introduced to Ballroom through Ashley Icon. But then it kind of fell shorter than Cyrus, God bless the dead, who used to walk runway for the House of St. Clair and Ebony, actually started to groom me into Ballroom. But I officially pushed through the doors of Ballroom after I actually walked the ball in Manhattan and found Grandfather Dre at the time. I had to judge a category, and he voted over me at that time for his Ebony member, and I became an Ebony shortly after that.
I went to a club and I met Heidi Mizrahi before she was actually Mizrahi, and she had told me about a ball. I went to Tracks and I saw a ball and just got mesmerized. I went to a ball and R.R. Chanel asked me to join his house, and I did without realizing that maybe that wasn't the house for me. I just wanted to be involved in it. So I was there for about a year. Then Dre asked me to join the House of Heaven. So I've been since '92.
All right, so mine was a little different. I was introduced to Ballroom with a friend that is not involved in Ballroom. Actually took me to the movies to go see Girls in Brooklyn, which was a really shock for me. Like, it was like really caught my attention. I wanted to do two things. I wanted to go to New York real bad, and I wanted to be in Ballroom, all because of that movie. But then later I met somebody named Tony Omni from Philly that started the Philadelphia chapter of House of Ultra Omni, and that's how I got introduced to actually walking doors and Tony. God bless the
Realness back in the 90s was basically not being feminine. There was no feminine traits, none of that. If you did any of those things, you couldn't even walk with us. You couldn't walk a twist category and walk regular purpose. But just being a man, being your And that's what going Southern.
So realness in the 90s back then was you look like one of the street boys. The 90s is during the crack era, the drug era, the robbing era. So you would come to a ball, you had to look exactly like one of them that stood on the corner selling crack. You could not tell that this man might have lived an alternate lifestyle, you know, and you had to be, you know, you were stressed to death. You had the chains, the leather jackets, the 40 belows or the Nikes or whatever, the saggy pants and everything, belt buckles with your name on it back then, and you just had to be like some real hood dude, you know.
Piggybacking up on what James said, I believe when I came into it, it was just the ultimate fact of having the judges perceive you as that street corner dude that gave them the perception of that I'm about to rob you, or either if you see me walking down the street, you're gonna want to cross the street. So it was just ultimately exemplifying a street corner boy, like James said.
Realness to me actually has different facets, because I'm looking at the executive realness, I'm looking at so many different levels of realness, and realness to me is basically looking like the straight counterpart of a male and not being looked at as being in the LGBT community, etc. Now, realists back in the days, when realists really first started, you had a lot of the people that walked realness from like the white era that had a feminine side of the runway.
Yes.
All right, but I started realizing that you had realist guys that run the streets, or I started bringing them to the ball, but they wouldn't come to the ball. They maybe come to the house, but not, I don't mean the house of Ebony, I mean the house.
That you like.
But they would not come to our ball until I started bringing them. So it changed the game of realness, because, and when they talk about everyday realness, I thought they were talking about everyday point blank realness, like I called it back in the day, so it kind of mixed me up. When I seen the guy go one day, I was like, I had a wow factor for it. But I felt like if a butch queen and drag didn't walk against a femme queen, if a butch didn't walk against a trans man, I felt like I call it momentary realist, the ones that look like a man on the runway for a minute, but act different off the runway, shouldn't be walking against an everyday brother that carries himself like a man. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is me. I don't care where I go, what I do, this is me. Butt naked in the shower, you'll catch me this way. I won't have no other sides of me, that kind of way. So I felt like the scene didn't have a place for people like me, so I bought it there. And after it went on for a while, I started feeling that way again. And at this moment, I still feel that way.
All right, realness from the 90s, one factor that I didn't hear my counterparts mention is intimidation factor. I feel like a lot of guys didn't walk. Honestly, if you look in their face, there was a intimidation factor. It was one of the main keys that got them. I think that's what got me by a lot. So yeah, that's something.
Let's talk about something that was very prominent in the 90s. As we all know, transgender women started the scene. It was based on them. Then going into the 80s, a lot of them like died off in a certain situation. And in the 90s, the men picked up a lot of the slack, and that's where like the father of all fathers reigned for many years in the 90s. Majority of you on this panel fathered, been fathered with. How was that for you, and did you know that was the journey that you was going to go into when you started walk?
Fathers in the 90s was very prominent. You know, it became a male-dominant scene. One of the greatest fathers during that time was my father, Tony Rebel, and also Roger Milan. Those two were the top tier fathers of the 90s. And for them, I can see Roger liked a lot of his women in his house. You know, he took very good care of them, and I idolized that about him. I envisioned that about him. With Tony created a relationship with everybody within the house. You know, mothers were more so, I'm here, you know, I know you, but the fathers were more hands-on, right? So I watched how they struggled with a lot of stuff during that time, and then making sure that the house was financially secure. There were some things done during that time to ensure that comfortability in the house, and because of that, the two of them were extracted from the ballroom for a bit of time, you know. And then you had Dre come up, who reshaped, redefined, and breathed life back into the House of Ebony. And that was really, really, really a prominent time because that was, you know, like Dre is the father, and Dre incorporated so many people from other houses into the House of Ebony. Even Revlon's had broke off during that time and had left and went over there and stuff. So it was like, wow. And then at that time, I was propelled into a position where I had to kind of help lead the house. So I started to learn. Although there were fathers in my time also, like Mann was a father at one point, Sean St. Clair was a father, and these are my cohorts or whatever. I never wanted to be a father because I thought that there was this mysterious curse upon them. And I was afraid of that curse, you know? So, but in its long story, when Tony came home, he made sure that I stayed in the position that I was in and continued to hone and groom that fatherhood in me. I had a big brother, Sean and Roy, who also I looked up to as brothers, but they were father figures as well when Tony wasn't around and stuff like that. So I seen the importance of being a father during that crucial era in time, and it hit home for me, and it helped me to realize to myself, you know, I'm a natural born leader, so why wouldn't I go into this position? Because I can hold Ballroom, the house, and the people in Ballroom together in love by that way, learning from my own biological father, my house father, and other influential fathers all around during that time. So it was a great experience.
So fatherhood for me in the 90s was a little different from, I guess, James' perspective. I got a chance to meet Roger Milan, you know, God bless the dead, before I actually got a chance to meet Dre. And when I met Dre, I noticed the difference between him and Roger. Roger had kind of like a fatherly but feminine kind of touch to him, to where Dre really gave me the father figure. And I connected to Dre right away because I don't know my own biological father. So it was some things that Dre kind of taught me that I actually didn't know myself about being a man within this community. But at the same time of me, you know, meeting Dre in a Ballroom's perspective, I always gotta give love to, you know, Mike Hanks, because that's my dad of all dads, who raised me, taught me real fatherhood, because he helped me raise my biological son at that time. Me being an overall father of the House of Ebony now, I didn't see myself in these shoes, to be honest with you. I denied the position several times to being the overall father. And I think I denied it because I felt like I wasn't ready for it. I do feel as though that I've learned some great tools from Dre, but I've also seen what he went through as a man running a Ballroom house. And I personally felt like during the time when I was asked the first time, I felt like that I wasn't mentally, nor physically, nor emotionally, nor spiritually ready to run a house. So I just waited for some time, and I eventually, you know, decided to say, you know, go for it. And I went for it because Dre kind of coerced me into it and just basically told me I'm gonna have your back. And I felt comfortable with that because the thing is, I could look to my left and I could look to my right, a brother who they've been fathers for a long time. Even before they was fathers, they was always mentoring people from the times of me sitting in the shadows of watching James and watching, you know, Mann. And I give big ups to also Roy. Roy was like a real intricate part of my life as far as being a brother. He has biological kids, and me and him related on things. So the thing for me was, when I stepped into fatherhood of the House of Ebony, I already knew I had support, but then I had to put on my real daddy hat because I'm a father outside of Ballroom. So I said, if I could raise my kids, and which are successful, I just knew that I could actually do it for Ballroom. So that's what it is for me. Good.
Next question.
Fatherhood during the Black era.
Fatherhood during the Black era. Well, that was a serious era of fatherhood for me. Why? Because so much was going on in the world, in the community at that time. We had HIV and we had the crack era simultaneously in the community. And a lot of things that happened, I had to really put myself aside and be there for a lot of people. And, you know, one thing I learned is that when you say mother, father, and children, but it kind of has a catch-22 here, because when you keep calling people children, that's how they operate. So if it was up to me, we would call them members, you know. Fatherhood is important to me in this era, coming from that era, because as far as the black era, my reign as a father in the black era, it birthed so many houses, which is so many families, you know. And just fought with one of the man was the overall father, I was up the grandfather in the late 90s going into 2000, right? And when man broke up to the house of Prodigy, at that time I didn't understand, and I finally understood. It was just a lack of communication. The communication skills that I developed since then, have I had them now, that wouldn't happen, but I didn't have them. And, you know, honestly, we lost a lot of people in that black hour. And I'm talking about people that I considered my children, you know, in the scene. So it was a hard era. It's a black era because it has a dark side, but it having a dark side, anybody that made it through that era, think about it, a piece of coal. A piece of coal is black. A pressure bust pipes are made diamonds. Okay, so what happened is that if you made it through that era, you came out with some cuts and you go into the diamond that you're going to be, you know. So the people that endured the black era actually polished for this era now. Looking at it, because if I just had to look at today, and many names called constantly, mine's being one of them. I'm sitting up here right now, so I understand that I'm part of a legacy aided in the house of Ebony. I know it from my heart. I could go to a ball and I sit with the house of Ebony, and I could sit at any table at that ball and be okay, except for the house of Ebony, or I have problems. but I can sit there, but they're gonna look at me like crazy, you know. But to see the nurturing and the evolution of everything that came out of fatherhood for me, let's think about it. House, kids grow up and they move out and they start families. So as it killed me, but man moved on, I'm so proud to see so many houses that came out of the house of Ebony, and the amount strongly that came out of my tenure as father.
The fault were the remains to me. When I came out, I joined the House of Chanel. As I said, I just wanted to join the house. I didn't know anything about balls. They kind of threw me into it. I became the father of the House of Chanel. And I knew it wasn't for me because I wanted that father figure. And I didn't find that in the House of Chanel. Arha was great, but he was a butch queen father / mother. So I would see Dre all the time, and we were cool. I didn't know them very well, but we were cool. We would speak, and he would always ask me to join that. And after becoming father, I knew I wanted to join because I liked what he represented, what he portrayed. I saw the group of guys that he hung out with, and I wanted to be a part of it. I liked the masculine part of all, and Dre was it for me. I know we all keep mentioning Dre, but he was just there. He was definitely there for me. He was the father figure and a brother for me, also for it.
And fatherhood in the 90s for me is a double standard for me. So when I came to Ballroom, I actually had a butch queen mother, which was Aura Sinclair by band now. So I learned a lot of things for us parenting from Aura. Moving on with somebody, of course, Dre Yang, that I learned a lot of our masculine side of being a father. So I kind of made in the middle. I got Aura, who's the butch queen, but she's feminine, and I had Dre. So my dynamics on being a father was a little different than the ultimate masculine fathers, because I kind of had both of them in me. So yeah, that evolved me into it. All right, well, so leaving, that was really was real hard time for me. I never wanted to lead House of Ebony in this Crusades, this South. I always wanted to be remembered as man that, even if I passed away, I always wanted my legacy to be man that. So it never was planned for me to leave. It just was something that happened. Me and Dre just had, a little misunderstanding. I decided to go and move on, which was a very frightening thing for me. But because I learned so much from me and Ebony, from Dre, stuff that I learned from Ori, and then my gay father who adopted me was Tony Revlon, is which built me up to say, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go. I already had the experience of being fathers in other previous houses when I knew I wasn't ready, but I took one anyway. So the transition wasn't that hard, but I was pissed by it.
Okay, Black era, Dre kind of touched on it, the toughest, hardest end. What made that era James so hard that coming from that era, you can't compare another era to that era?
What was hard about the Black era during that time was the judgment from your elders. You know, it was, for me, my experience was, it was very as if I was still at home with a whole bunch of brothers and sisters. I'm the youngest of 5, you know, household with mother and father. So it's a lot going on, and you trying to gain your ground, find your sense of identity, find your place in it. So when you, and me personally, again, my experience, as you could tell, I have a very high voice. And so back then, it was even higher. And so my friends was always the girls, you know, so they were real feminine and stuff. I didn't hang out with the masculine dudes and stuff like that because to me, they were phony, you know, so I hung out with my crew besides Ben, because Ben was a part of that crew. And so, for me, you know, as I would walk against like the House of Ebony, you know, they were one of my biggest rivals, along with Devin Pendarvis and Hakeem Jordan and Mann, and so, and Bam eventually too, you know, so I'm battling all these masculine men, and I'm in the corner giving you, yeah, well, bro, dude. You know, so, you know, all that, but then, you know, I come out, you know, so it was hard, you know, but, and you had to conquer that fear and overcome those obstacles. So what worked for me is that one day, Derek Armani, Gautier Ebony, told me, you know why you win realness? And I said, why? He said, because you're cute and you can dress really well. I said, oh, for real? That's it? But I felt it was the realest thing he said to me. And I had a boyfriend at the time, Kenny, God bless the dead. He changed my style of dressing, and it helped elevate me to win more and more of the realness and stuff. So I found my place. And once I started smashing the house of heaven, I found my place. It was still hard though, because it would be a lot of them, you know what I mean? So, you know, and they didn't see it. Not at all. So obstacles of finding your place, finding your respect in what you do and how you do it was really, really hard. But once I overcame those obstacles, it became really easy. Then you made friendships and stuff. Like Dre and I, we were the biggest rivals, and we turned out to be the greatest brothers, you know? So that was good, because that was an obstacle.
Well, let me start here. The realest gentlemen of today, I do feel some of them do respect the guys that they know that are before them. And I think they respect those guys because those guys still come around. So, i.e. James, Dre, Mann are still out there. So these are people that they continue to see every now and then. So the respect level is still there. What I like to see from a lot of the new guys is how they actually, when Dre does come out, a lot of them gravitate to him. And a lot of them ask him questions, which I think is amazing because, you know, usually you hear in Ballroom how, you know, the old people tend to get phased out. But what I've noticed within the realness category, the fellas tend to gravitate to the senior members of the realness chain. And I think that's something that's going to be a continuum of going on if we continue to try to keep the brotherhood as solid as we can try to keep it without the catty stuff. So I think a lot of the fellas do respect the guys before them.
Wow, it's funny because it's a whole evolution of thought as of today. And I realized that the edification is what kills us. Edification builds us. So as we talk good about each other, that's what that goodness and that love and all that multiplies. Right? So obviously the stage that said that even I was out there, I'm thinking I be really thinking I'm a new face. When I come around, well, they laughed at me out there, like, a new face, like, I know you, but I want to be a new face. Damn, you have your sprinkles that don't respect, or when I'm really pulled back the skins and the layers of it sitting here right now, those are the same ones that don't have respect for themselves. And those are, we got to realize this. If the 90s was where a lot of 80s babies were starting to grow up, because of crack and HIV, a lot of the moral standards and everything that was placed in us, the 80s, a lot of the 80s, you got a section that move, a lot of them didn't get that. So those 80s babies don't have babies, and then those have babies, so it's being diluted generation to generation. So as I spoke earlier, it's not just ballroom, a lack of respect, it's in society, period, that this is going on. But to me, you don't demand respect, you command it. And what you give out is what you give in return. So, I never thought I was disrespected by the other generations at all, but today kind of solidified that to me, that how I always felt, I'm good.
Why is realness considered toxic? I think because you have to maintain that hard masculinity. Most guys nowadays don't have that. It's not required. When we came out, you had to look a certain way and act a certain way. Now you can get married, you can walk down the street, you can do all types of things. So I don't think they had all of that in them constantly all the time. And to walk a category, I think they're making them be something that they're not 100% all the time. So I think that's where it becomes really toxic.
Why is the realness category so toxic now? Like, man, I got to think. I don't really feel like it's so much as toxic. There are toxic people that walk the category, but I don't think the category itself is toxic for the men. But for the women, it's toxic because they are judged on how much of a woman that they look like, right? So now their competition is what their face looks like, what their hair looks like, what their clothes look like, what their bodies look like, and all of that. And they feel like if you don't pick them, or they don't win, or get chopped for realness, they feel like you are questioning their womanhood. I think for us as men, walking realness, there is no question about our manhood. We are born men, So when we're walking realness, again, it doesn't become toxic. Only thing that becomes toxic, which back then it was toxic when we would verbally go at each other. What I see amongst the men today, when they verbally go at it, they're having fun with it, and they're laughing and they're joking. And a lot of them today are more a bunch of friends than we were back then. So again, I think it's toxic people, not the category itself is toxic.
All right, so I'm going to piggyback off of what James said. To me, I feel it's toxic. And the only reason why I feel like it's toxic, more toxic today, social media. A lot of them, they're too accessible into the world. Everybody put all their personal business on social media. That gives them, that just opens up the door for your competitors to put your business out when you're walking against somebody. So this is what's toxic to me. So if I'm walking against him and I'm actually doing sexual video, which is my personal business, he now can use that against me. So to me, that's what makes it toxic. When we were walking back in the day, like I said, we were verbally, kind of diminished, like saying little negative stuff to each other while we walking. But he didn't know what I did behind closed doors because we didn't broadcast that out on social media. So, right. Of course, we didn't have social media, but still, if you slept with somebody, you read them out.
Right.
So to me, I just think a lot of the top, it's toxic to me because of social media, just putting out your business out there.
That's a good
and that's powerful.
That's a very good one.
I think when it was named Talk Realness, it's when toxicity came from. Why? And I did this do it again because they wasn't here. Okay? The definition, Webster's definition of thug is a violent, aggressive person, especially one who is a criminal, he was attacked by gang thugs, historical member group or the organization of robbers, assassins in India, or waylaid and strangled them with them victims, usually travelers, and stole their belongings. They were suppressed by the British in the 1830s. So imagine somebody that do research like I do. So if they see a category thug realist, they think this is what they got to portray. So, like I said, what you put out is what you get. So whoever decided to call the category thug realist, like I said, hung by the tongue. What you put out there is what you get. What you reap is what you sow.
And that's what they said.
And to add to that, I don't, in our society, I don't even think there's anybody that is thug realist, except for one person. It's only one person I would call a thug realness, because he absolutely exemplifies that. You know what I mean? And anytime that they have that category in New York, it's grand prize. But that's like the majority, the masses, are not thugs. Banji every day, Butch Queen drillers.
But it's all about, like, because when I first started walking, that's what it was called. It was BQ Realness.
Right.
So, you know, I went in the transition of,
I thought a lot of guys didn't associate with the Banji and the Butch-Queen word.
Cause they,
Dre changed that. Dre changed that.
we got to
Dre
point,
changed that.
we had a point blank, no question.
Right. Point blank.
I think that's right there gave people a comfortability, you know what I'm saying? And yeah. And then I went away, man was involved, I went away, I had full custody of my son, I came back. Not only did they take away from point blank realness, they twisted it.
yeah.
And it took me a minute. It took me to be behind the scenes, put in the production together for Face when he did Run DMC, for me to really embrace and love that category. And then that's when I started embracing other sides of the scene, because the feminine side of the scene I kind of kept my distance from. And I said this outside a little while ago, because I could understand I love being a man. I love everything about being a man. I don't want to be a woman, never thought about being a woman in any kind of way. So for people, and I can laugh because a lot of them won't say it in my face, but I was a crowd of people one day, and I said, I'm going to say something that y'all hear all the time, but I don't hear it. They said, what? And I said, mystery. They all fell off. Because that's what's said behind my back, you know? But to me, the de-edification is a problem, because I don't do that. I didn't. If you're a man, and that's what, one thing I laughed about the pronouns, he, him, and his, and all that thing, but I like that. Why? Because it makes you call people who they want to be identified as. But being called other than me and being, what's it called when they misgender you? You know what I'm saying? I couldn't stand that, and that's why I stayed away from that side until the Brahmins and Joshes and the Tim-Tims and all that just creeped in my heart. And then stomped in my heart again because they left them alone about their way. So I'm funny, but I've learned how to deal with people. I take the title off of people and deal with them for who they are.
Personal question. Do you prefer the evolution of you being more open to people being who they want to be and who they are?
Yeah, and actually, my evolution of communication is, like I said, if I was who I am right now, man would still be Man Ebony like he wanted to be. I seen some things happen when I came back around now that is like what was being said behind his back. So what fixing things, but not communicating with him to fix it. So I really just didn't have the communication skills I have now. So the evolution, I believe whatever happens in life is supposed to happen, else it wouldn't happen. There's no such thing as, oh, I'm being mistaken, made a right turn. No, you made a right turn. It's written. It's written. And obviously, some things had to happen in order for I remember calls I got from Mann as of recently. I remember our conversations of recently. And honestly, you can't miscommunicate the love that's truly there. You know what I'm saying? I don't miss that part. And then, because I'm more open in communication, there's sides of me that people never ever knew exist. I even know with you learn the sides of me now. Like, that's a wild factor for you, right? Same thing with you. Anyway, I didn't know. But truthfully, people will know somebody by another person's experience with them. I've always understood, have my experience with that person myself. because what happened with them and with them, that don't have nothing to do with what happened with me and that person. You know, and you talking about different DNAs, different, names, or, the things, fingerprints, the things that make you different. So how y'all operate is gonna be different than me, how you operate. People even identify what their relationship should be based upon how the relationships go. Y'all two different people. They might have common denominators that work, but y'all have to find your uniqueness in who y'all are in each other. And that goes with people